So you made it to the most northern Baltic country called Estonia, and you have no clue what to spend your time on? Well, follow along and I'll show you around the place, continuing through the old town and some other parts of Tallinn. Hopefully, you'll have an idea of what to spend your time on after this video. Fat Margaret was built in the early 16th century, from 1511 till 1530, during the reconstruction of the medieval city gate system. The etymology of the tower's name derives from the fact that it was the largest part of the city's fortification, with walls measuring 25 meters in diameter, 20 meters in height, and up to 5 meters thick. Apart from being a fortification against would-be invaders to the port of the town, it was also built to impress outside visitors arriving by sea. The tower is a defensive structure at the end of a big street, together with the Suur Rannavärav at a 16th century arch flanked by two towers. It served to defend the harbor of Tallinn. Currently, it is used as a museum. St. Olaf's Church in Tallinn, the city's biggest medieval structure, took its name from the sainted Norwegian king, Olaf II Haraldsson. The church was first mentioned in 1267. There also is a well-known legend about the forming of this church, which goes along the lines of: a long time ago, when Tallinn was a small town, someone came up with a good idea: to build a church with a spire so high that more merchant ships would come to town. People started looking for a building master but didn't find any. They lost their hope, but then a mysterious stranger appeared and offered his help in exchange for 10 barrels of gold. They couldn't afford it, so he offered to do it for free if townspeople discovered his name, which they did. The church had been almost finished, and people started shouting to the builder, "Look, Olav, the cross is leaning to one side." Hearing his name, Olav was shocked. His legs gave way and he fell down. As soon as his body hit the ground, a toad and a snake leaped out of his mouth. The tower is one of the most important symbols of Estonia's independence. Every day the blue, black and white flag is hoisted during sunrise while the national anthem is played. The first time that the Estonia's flag was hoisted was on the 12th of December in 1918, and it stayed there till 1940 summer. After the decades of Soviet Union rule, the national flag got up there again in 1989. There is a legend between Tall Herman and Fat Margaret, which goes along the lines of: there once was a really tall guy named Herman and a quite short, fat girl called Margaret. They liked each other and went on walks every day, but they both had to be home by 12 p.m. Once, like always, they were walking and forgot to keep time. They heard bells ring, which signaled the arrival of 12 p.m. Both of them started running towards their homes, getting quite far, but not far enough. So they both turned into towers, Tall Herman and Fat Margaret. Still, even to this day, they wish to go out on walks. After World War I, the empires of Russia and Austria-Hungary collapsed and several new states were founded in Europe. Of these new states, the Republic of Estonia was the first who decided to build a new parliamentary building. Three-storied building with 4 wings is built on medieval foundations around the trapeze-shaped inner courtyard. The outer facade of the building is decorated by 3 entrances, and above them large windows of the chamber, which are surrounded by decoration consisting of black triangles made of finished granite. There actually wasn't a permit for building this church, The selected piece of land belonged to Tallinn's government. The constructors collected money from all over Russia, which was a peculiar method at the time. The fascinating architecture is not the only thing that this church captures its viewers' eyes with. To be more exact, it has one of the most powerful ensemble of bells, which originate from St. Petersburg, Russia. There is a total of 11 bells, the heaviest of which is around 15 tons. Tallinn's grandest 19th century church sets itself apart with its twin steeples, immense size, and neo-Roman style. It was built from 1862 to 1882 as a long overdue replacement for the original godly church, itself founded in 1670 on the order of Sweden's King Charles XI. Like many wooden structures located outside the wall, the first godly church burned down during the Great Northern War in the early 1700s. The architect from St. Petersburg built the present limestone church using a special arch technique that gave it a vast open interior. The money was collected from citizens of Tallinn, and it's rumored that they had collected so much money that they built another smaller church with the leftover money. The representative square of Tallinn, Freedom Square, is a popular meeting place designed for pedestrians. This large paved plaza, once the staging ground for spontaneous displays of Soviet enthusiasm, is now used for summer concerts, skateboarding, and impromptu ball games. The square sits just outside of one of the former town gates, the remains of which are preserved under glass near the northwestern corner. A gigantic glass cross at the square's west end commemorates the Estonian War of Independence. The cross, which cost 7 million euros, is not beloved by Estonians. St. Nicholas Church is a medieval ex-church in Tallinn. It was dedicated to St. Nicholas, the patron of fishermen and sailors. Originally built in the 13th century, it was partially destroyed in the Soviet bombing of Tallinn in World War II. It has since been restored and today houses a branch of the Art Museum of Estonia, focusing mainly on ecclesiastical art from the Middle Ages onward. The former church is also used as a concert hall. Most famous of the artworks in the museum is perhaps A Danse Macabre by Lübeck master Bernd Notke, which depicts the transience of life, the skeletal figures of death, taking along the mighty as well as the feeble ones. Danse Macabre, or the Dance of Death, was popular medieval motif in art. Only the initial fragment of the 30-meter original white painting has been preserved and is currently displayed in St. Nicholas Church. Picturesque town square has been the undisputed hub of Old Town for the past 8 centuries. Surrounded by elaborate merchant houses and in summer packed with cafe tables, it's a natural magnet for tourists. Historically, it served as a market and a meeting place, and was the site of at least one execution, resulting from a dispute over a bad omelette. Find a round stone marked with a compass rose in the middle of the square. From this spot, with a little stretching and bending, you can see the tops of all 5 of Old Town's spires. Nothing says power like the impressive Gothic town hall that dominates medieval Tallinn's main square. It was built in 1402 to 1404 as a meeting place for the ruling burgomaesters and has been a showpiece of the Tallinn ever since. Nowadays, the town hall, the only intact Gothic town hall in Northern Europe, is used mainly for concerts or for entertaining visiting kings or presidents. Looking closely at the top of the spire to spot the old Thomas Weatherwain, a symbol of Tallinn who has been standing at attention here since 1530, the structure's interior is truly impressive, featuring colorful meeting halls, vaulted ceilings, intricate wooden carvings, and some of the city's most prized art treasures, including the famed Christian and Isolde carved bench. Continuing with the medieval theme, right next to the town square you can find a cool place with an accurate medieval vibe that is even unique in Europe. All the waitresses and wine boys are in theme corresponding clothing, even the men wearing tight silk pants with boots that have curly nose. It is a dream of any medieval setting lover, where medieval music plays and you can eat bear, elk, and wild boar meat in one dish. Opened since 1422, this curious little shop on Town Square is in fact the oldest continuously running pharmacy in Europe. 10 generations of the same family, the Burkhardts, operated it from 1581 to 1911. It was so famous in its day that the Russian Tsar used to order medicines from there. Remedies sold at the pharmacy in medieval times included snakeskin potion, mummy juice, powdered unicorn horn, for male potency of course, but this was also a place to buy everyday items like jam, tea, claret, gunpowder, and most importantly, marzipan. Marzipan was one of the pharmacy's best sellers, one that local legends insists was actually invented as a curative here in 15th century. The historic site still operates as a pharmacy today, selling modern products, but its side room houses an interesting display of 17th to 20th century medical bric-a-brac. Moving northeast from the town center, we end up in a new district called Kadriorg, in which subsides a gift from a Russian Tsar to his mistress. This grand Baroque palace, built for Peter the Great in 1718, now houses the Art Museum of Estonia's foreign collection, designed by Italian architect Niccolo Michetti. The palace and surrounding manicured gardens are a humbling example of Tsarist extravagance. In its current role as the Kadriorg Art Museum, it displays hundreds of 16th and 20th century paintings by Eastern and Russian artists, as well as prints, sculptures, and other works. Kadriorg can be considered to be the grandest example of palace and park design in Estonian architectural history, and is not worth skipping on. For Estonians, there's a couple of very important events that take place. 2 of them have taken place here, in Lauluväljak, a keen icon for all of us, for here we sang ourselves free from the Soviet Union's regime, and every 5 years we come together to sing and celebrate our traditions and culture with a song festival. Along with the Ark, which under thousands of singers have sung, there is a tower where a fire is lit to signify the beginning of the festival, and when the last song is sung, it is put out. In the grounds of the place you can find 2 very cool and important structures, first of which is a monument of Gustav Ernesaks, who is an Estonian composer and the father of song. Many of his creations are regarded as a part of the Estonian identity and can be heard on a nearby standing singing bench. Second of which is a building made out of concrete and is called the chromatio, because of it being a visual representation of the chromatic scale. In it you can make a noise and it will echo with a corresponding note. Kumu, the main building of Art Museum of Estonia, serves both as Estonia's National Gallery and as a center for contemporary art. The complex itself is a work of art. It was opened in 2006 after nearly a decade of planning and construction, and is considered a modern architectural masterpiece. Curves and sharp edges mark out the copper and limestone structure, which is built into a side of a limestone cliff. Kumu's exhibition aims to appeal to diverse audiences. Exhibitions display both classical and contemporary art and everything in between. The program features art from the 18th century until today, Estonian art till the Second World War, art of the Soviet era, and temporary exhibitions of contemporary art. In 2008, the European Museum Forum, which operates under the auspice of the Council of Europe, awarded Kumu the title of Europe Museum of the Year. Following our route north, you will see a tall tower between and above buildings. The television tower was constructed in 1980 for the Moscow Summer Olympics regatta event. It also tells an iconic tale of Estonians' fight for freedom when Soviet officers came to claim the tower. More specifically, a widely known account tells of a handful of radio operators who in 1991 risked their lives to protect the free media of the reborn Republic of Estonia. They placed a matchbox between the elevator door and frame in such a manner that the elevator would not work, forcing Soviet troops to climb every one of approximately 1,000 tower steps. The operators also had a oxygen-removing firefighting system at their disposal. However, it is not known if the system was operational or if it was a bluff. Putting the system into use would have asphyxiated everyone in the tower, including those who are trying to defend it. Maarjamäe Memorial, designed by architect Allan Murdmaa and sculptor Mati Varik, stands on Pirita Road between Lasnamäe Plateau and Tallinn Bay. It was erected to those who had fallen defending the Soviet Union. The memorial is made up of both architectural and landscaping elements, and at its center stands a 35-meter obelisk, but the ensemble also includes the graves of the crews of the Avdrooli and Spratak minesweepers, dolomite-lined walls, grass-covered slopes, the pathways between them, and a bronze sculpture of a flock of birds. The Maarjamäe Memorial, depicting the journey of the victim of communism, is dedicated to Estonian people who suffered the terror of the Soviet regime. The memorial consists of two parts: a journey with nameplates of the victims, and a symbolical home garden with informative texts and stone tablets marking the sites of terror. The memorial includes a monument dedicated to Estonian officers who fell victim to communist terrorism. Estonia lost a fifth of its population, just over 1 million, to Soviet terrorism, many of whom still rest in unmarked graves. The memorial complex is dedicated to the victims of communism and serves to remind us of the fragility of freedom and human life. Wandering Lights is a festival that is held annually in Tallinn, Kadrioru Park. It usually consists of entertainment in the form of concerts and awe-inspiring light shows that is put up each year. The aesthetic scenery is quite popular among youngsters and grown-ups for its inspiring themes and spectacles. The park is also littered with food trucks that offer anything from an old classical burger to a modern vegan option, both being quite popular with the crowds. Somewhat new to Estonia, the Tallinn Street Food Festival, which takes place in Kalamaja, and the place is also known as the hipster part of town. It is beautifully decorated with murals on walls, and it is nice and chill. No wonder why they picked that spot for the event. Walk through the colorful district with a mouth-watering unique food from a food truck or stand, which differ from the usual barbecue trucks to the new awe-inspiring vegetarian and vegan trucks. Well, this is it, I would say, but there are so many things and places that just didn't fit into the video. One of the best ways to discover Tallinn is to walk around and explore the smaller streets, because you don't know what there might be, but one thing is sure, that you won't be bored within the city. Hope you've enjoyed this small tour of the city, and see you on the streets or museums.